The Hidden Room, a true Airbnb horror story. Before we start, one thing. Click * subscribe, smash that like, and hit the * bell. If you make it to the end, type, "I'm still awake," so I know you stayed with me. Now lock your doors. This one will make you cancel your next Airbnb. I remember the exact sound, a low, steady knock from the inside of a wall, like someone tapping on a table 2 rooms away. I had been lying on the lumpy couch, half asleep, headphones on, trying to drown out jet lag with a true crime podcast. It was 2:14 a.m., and the house around me was supposed to be empty except for me. The host's listing said private cottage, quiet neighborhood, and the reviews raved about the cozy living room and fast Wi-Fi. It was the cheapest place I could find within walking distance of the conference. I told myself I deserved a break. The knock came again. Once, twice, then a pause, then 3 quick taps, near the kitchen wall, exactly where the listing's floor plan showed a blank space between the pantry and what was labeled storage. I sat up. The podcast kept talking in the background like nothing had changed, the narrator's voice calm and stupidly normal. I ripped my headphones off and listened. The knock stopped as if whoever had been doing it had heard the silence and decided to wait. I stood and checked the doors, the windows, every lock I could find. Everything was normal. The front door bolt was snug. The back door had a chain I flipped on, like people did in movies. I laughed at myself once and told myself I was being an idiot. New city, tired alone. The host had 200 5-star reviews. Nothing was going to happen here. Then my phone buzzed with a message from the host. "Hope everything's great. I'll be gone tonight. Help yourself to the coffee." The innocuous, friendly tone felt suddenly strange. The message time, 2:12 a.m., 2 minutes before the first knock. I took the flashlight from the kitchen drawer like those nights when the power goes out and you pretend you're prepared. In the beam, the living room looked smaller and more crowded than the photos. Boxes stacked by the hallway. A folded blanket draped over a chair that hadn't been in the listing pictures. I moved toward the kitchen, heart in my throat, every step loud. The knock started again as if timed to my approach. Tap, tap, tap. The sound came from a wall, by the pantry door. I pressed my ear to the paint. At first, nothing. Then a faint rustle, like paper being shifted. My breath fogged in the thin house air. I slid the pantry door open. Canned goods, a broom, a vacuum, normal. The knock sounded again, but this time it seemed to move, lower, closer to the floor, as if someone was tapping from inside the baseboard. That's when I found the seam. A hairline crack in the wall base, a sliver of paint chipped. It was the kind of thing you'd miss in the daylight, painted over in the house photos. I got down on my knees and ran my fingers along it. The paint felt scuffed, softer in one spot like something had been rubbed there for years. I pressed the flashlight beam into the crack and saw what behind it. Not insulation, not drywall. A square perfectly cut. Someone had built a small panel and painted it to blend in. I got my pocket knife and pried. The panel came free with a soft pop and revealed a crawl, a shallow cavity 3 feet deep, dark and stale with the smell of old air. Inside, tucked neatly, were a stack of dusty magazines, a broken flashlight, and my stomach turned when I saw it. A cheap digital camera, its lens pointed out at the room. The memory card was half inserted like a tongue in a grin. My hand shook so hard I dropped the panel back into place. For a second I thought, prank. Maybe the host had done some kind of quirky, welcome thing to make the place seem lived in. But a camera built into the wall, facing the living room? The listing's photos had shown guests laughing in that very spot on the couch. I pulled the panel out again with both hands and took the camera, my breath loud in my ears. The lens was dusty but intact. I popped the memory card into my phone adapter and opened the files. The first image was of the couch. A timestamp, 3 nights ago, 11:02 p.m. The second image showed a different couch angle, my chair closer to the coffee table, and the timestamp of 1:39 a.m. The frames clicked by. There were photos every hour, sometimes every 5 minutes. Some were empty rooms. Some showed a shadowy figure sitting in the dark, always just out of frame, the shape of a person but distorted by the cheap lens. One photo made my hands go cold. It was taken less than an hour ago, from the exact angle the camera had been in. A person lay on the couch, head turned toward the camera. Their face was blurred by motion, but I knew that face. I'd seen its exact profile in a million mirror selfies, my own. I didn't sleep that night. I pulled the curtains and stayed awake until dawn, watching the wall where the camera had been and counting the ticks on the kitchen clock. I thought about calling the host, but what would I say? Hey, your private cottage has a hidden camera in the wall that's been filming me? The message from him replayed in my head at 2:12 a.m., a perfectly timed attempt at reassurance, or a marker left to let the watcher know I'd arrived. I didn't want to be paranoid, but the photos in my gallery felt like pieces of a map I hadn't been given. The truth is, I went for the cops in the end. Well, almost. I called the non-emergency number, but the voice said the station was short-staffed and advised I contact the hosting platform to file a complaint and leave. We'll note it in case there's a broader pattern, the dispatcher said. I hung up and sat in the car in the driveway for an hour, engine running, flashlight on the dash. I didn't sleep. I thought of every review that had praised the host's hospitality. I thought of the stack of cameras in people's homes. How many were planted in the seams, in the vents, in the backs of picture frames? How many of those 5-star reviews were written by people who smiled for the camera and didn't know? When I finally went back inside, I taped the panels shut and left the camera on the kitchen table like evidence in a museum. I messaged the host. Found a camera in the wall. You need to explain. The reply was immediate. Oh my God. I'll be home in the morning. Don't touch anything. I'm so sorry. Must have been left by the previous owner. He said the previous owner had been an elderly man who'd rented the place outright before listing it. Quiet neighbor. Always left lights on late. He left a lot of things when he moved. The host wrote, I'll handle it. The message felt relief-soaked and thin. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to sleep. That night, around midnight, I reviewed the camera files one more time before deleting them. There were thousands of shots, some blurred by motion, some crystal clear. The pattern bothered me. The camera's frames got denser between midnight and 2 a.m., then slowed. There were gaps exactly between 2:10 and 2:20 a.m. every night, like whoever used it knew not to film during that 10-minute window. And then, the most recent images, the ones taken that same night, ended with a sequence I could not explain. A picture of the living room with no one seated. The next photo, taken 1 minute later, showed someone kneeling in front of the wall where the panel was, hands invisible, as if working. The timestamp read 2:14 a.m. The next file was a single frame of darkness and a smudge of light, probably a hand covering the lens. I shut my laptop and tried to convince myself it was over. Whoever had left that camera had taken it out. The host had promised to come in the morning. I lay down on the couch with the blanket pulled up to my chin and forced my eyes closed. I told myself to breathe. I told myself I would be out of the house at first light. At 2:13 a.m., there was a faint sound, like plastic rubbing against plaster, low and close, coming from the exact seam I had found. My stomach flipped. The knocking started then, slow and deliberate. 1 knock, 2 knocks, 3 quick taps. The same rhythm I had heard the first night. My hair rose on my arms. I wanted to run. I wanted to grab the camera and smash it and burn the memory card and tear the place down to studs. Instead, I crept across the living room, barefoot and silent. The flashlight beam bounced between boxes and furniture, landing finally on the pantry wall. The seam where the panel once fit was there, paint still fresh where I had tugged at it. I stepped close, pressing my ear to the wood. From inside the void, a voice came, soft, filtered through the cavity of the wall, like air through a pipe. It was a whisper at first, 1 syllable, then another, so unintelligible I thought it was just the pipes. Then a word I understood fully and felt in my bones. Don't. I reeled back, fingers numb. The knock tapped again, this time in a new place, lower, not from the pantry but from the floorboards near the couch. A pattern. A rhythm. The house breathed around me. The whisper came again, clearer, like someone leaning into a vent and speaking into a mouthpiece. Leave. I swallowed. My rational brain shouted at me to run, to get my keys, to drive away, to find the nearest hotel that didn't have seams in its walls. But curiosity is a cruel vice when your brain is already frayed. I crouched and peered into the little opening, shining the flashlight into the void. What I saw made me stumble backward and hit the coffee table. There, no more than 2 feet inside the dark cavity, someone had left a strip of photos tacked to the inside wall, small instant prints, corners curled. They were taken from every angle of the living room, the couch, the kitchen table. Some showed the empty room. Some showed me, sleeping, reading, sitting on the couch, images I recognized as frames from the night. The final photo in the strip was fresh, the emulsion still tacky. It showed the living room exactly as it was in that moment. The couch, the coffee table, and me, eyes wide with the flashlight, leaning toward the seam. Pinned under that fresh photo was a tiny scrap of paper. In blocky, hurried handwriting, 3 words, asterisk stay. Watch. Wait. Asterisk. Someone on the other side of that wall had been counting and cataloging my nights, making a map of my small rituals. They had taped a camera into my wall and left me a note to keep me there, to make me watch my own life unfold on a screen while someone else arranged the scenes. The knocks accelerated, hard and frantic, as if whatever was behind the wall knew I'd seen their work. Then the whisper changed. It stopped saying leave. It laughed, low and contented, like someone pleased that a performance had begun. I ran for the door, fumbling with the latch. The key wouldn't turn. I jerked at it harder. The chain I had latched earlier was thick and heavy as a man's wrist. My breath came in ragged pulls. I slammed my shoulder against the door until fat tears stung sweat into my eyes. Something thumped from inside the wall, a solid, muscular impact, like a fist. The lights flickered. The house groaned. Then, directly behind me, in the kitchen doorway, a shadow detached itself from the darkness and stepped into the beam of my flashlight. I tell you this now, and my voice still goes thin. It was not a stranger in a jacket or the silhouette of a man. It was the host, holding a stack of photos, smiling as if he'd been expecting me to find them all along. His hands were clean. The camera around his neck swung gently like a pendant. "Good," he said, quiet and close enough that I could feel the words on my face. "You found the wall." Then he reached out toward me, slow, deliberate, and the flashlight slid from my fingers. The world went black except for the image burned into the back of my eyelids, the camera lens glinting like a small, patient eye.